Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Eric with American Business Systems. It's good to have you and have you on the webinar this afternoon. It's good to see and meet each one of you. This is going to be a great topic of discussion that we're going to go over today. Obviously, it's effective marketing for getting your first doctor. To me, folks, this is one of the most exciting webinars that we can do because it shows you a preview of what you're going to learn after you become an ABS business owner here at American Business Systems. So we're going to give a few of the folks that are on this afternoon to give them a chance to get on. I know that a lot of people are trying to log in when we get started right up at the top of the hour. We got people that kind of drop in, and some are probably just now getting off of work and wanting to tap into the webinar. So we're going to give it just a few minutes before we actually get started. But it's good to see Cassandra. Good to see you on here, Elizabeth, Janice, Juanita, Robert, Shwaite. Hopefully I said your name correctly. But I see some other ones that are actually coming on in here. So we've got a good crowd that's going to join us this afternoon. Again, like I was mentioning as I got this thing kicked off, this is one of the most exciting webinars that I think I get to do because this is where we get to peel back the curtain a little bit to share with you some of the exciting ways that we're going to help you get your first client. So again, today's topic is effective marketing for getting your first client. So hopefully you come today ready to learn a little bit. Hopefully you've come with a pen and paper. If you'd like to, you can get this slide deck in a PDF. All you got to do is get back with your sales rep here at American Business Systems, and they'll be happy to help you out with that. All right, folks, we're going to get started here. Again, my name is Eric Auger. I will be your host this afternoon as I take you through about an hour of your time. Maybe we'll get to finish up a little bit before the hour mark here. And because I know that sometimes it helps whenever we don't go too much longer, especially whenever you want to watch this later on. All right, so let's do a little bit of housekeeping. All of your questions and answers will be in the Q&A box, so you might want to find that real quickly. If you don't mind, just typing in where you are located this afternoon. I love to hear where everybody's located. So if you don't mind, just finding the Q&A box and just tell me where you are located. You can put in something like that. I can hear you, and I'm from Texas, or I'm from Louisiana, or Robert says he's from North Virginia. So Robert, I was in Virginia Beach weekend after lax. So I was just out there not too long ago. We got Vicus from Pennsylvania, Elizabeth's from New Jersey, Juanita's from Virginia Beach area. Okay, so I was up in that area not too long ago. Stayed in the Chesapeake area, so that was pretty cool. Had a great time there. For some of you, again, first timers, my name is Eric Auger. I'll be your host this afternoon. Some of you may have met Adam Phillips. Adam is our CEO of our company. You may have heard him on last Wednesday's webinar, so that might be where you're familiar with him. Some of you may be talking with him directly, but Adam is leading American Business Systems. He's been in this since he's been in his teens. His mom and dad started it way back over 30 plus years ago, and Adam's been able to take the family on to the next generation here with the Phillips family, taking it, for how long? All righty. And then he's also written some other books here. He has written a book called 9 Ways Doctors Let Money Slip Through Their Fingers. He's also helped orchestrate and coordinate many other writings. He has written in the Billing and Coding Advantage magazine. The year before last, he put actually just back in 2024, wrote an incredible article on the uprising and the what's going on with artificial intelligence. So hopefully you've become used to using that yourself and finding out that it's a great and wonderful tool. We're finding it to be a great tool and a great asset here when we're doing medical billing. He is also the founder of an organization called MERMA. That's the Medical Revenue Management Association of America. It is this organization that will certify you once you've completed the training. Some of the training I'm going to kind of go over this afternoon, so you get some knowledge of that. So you'll have some of a knowledge bank of that to kind of rely upon. But MIRMA is the group that will certify you as a certified medical revenue manager. That will help you with your credentials. You can place that in all of your marketing material and some of the marketing material that I shared with you this afternoon. All right, so it looks like we've got everybody up here that's going to say where they're from. Let me kind of clear out some of this so I don't get it confused with some of the other things that might be coming in. Yeah, Juanita, I was just up in that area, so it's pretty cool. It's a beautiful area. I've gotten to visit that several times over the last year and a half or so. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to take on an approach on a couple of different things. So we obviously, as you're trying to get into this business, you're trying to think, okay, guys, what am I going to do to get my first client? And so that's what we want to talk about today, is helping you understand how ABS is going to help you get your first client. So let's kind of get this off the top. When you become part of American Business Systems, there's a lot that you get. You're going to get access to all of the software, all of the support systems. You're going to have a lifetime of support here with us here at American Business Systems. And one of the things that get asked of us a lot of, will you provide me a potential list of doctors of who I might be able to go out there as my first client? Let me tell you real quickly about lists. Let me share how they're generated. Those lists are generated from marketing material and marketing websites that are marketing to doctors, and they're asking doctors all sorts of questions. And there might be one or two doctors that might say that they might need some assistance with revenue cycle management, but it doesn't mean that those doctors are ready. And a lot of times, if you're looking at another organization here and they're going to provide you a list, I'm going to tell you that list, by the time you get it, has really been worked over pretty heavily. And the reason that we know that is because we tried that too. We were trying to do our best to help provide information for our business owners. And we found that the information that you're going to find in today's webinar is the most accurate and the best way to sustain your business and then grow your business even as you're trying to find your first doctor. So, I named this next slide here really Mastering Medical Marketing for Medical Billing. And I wanted to lay out a couple of things here as an introduction. First of all, we have to understand that physicians are busy professionals with specific needs and concerns. I want you to understand that you're dealing with real people who are dealing with real people who are typically really sick, okay? And if you've ever been in a doctor's office, you just know that sometimes the chaos that's in a doctor's office, appointments are made, and then sometimes people don't show up for their appointments. Sometimes the patient takes a little bit longer with the doctor, which extends your next appointment that you thought you had at 1 o'clock, and now it's 1:30 and you haven't seen the doctor yet. So folks, these are things that we've all experienced. There's a lot of things that happen in that doctor's office that, again, causes a lot of the chaos. And one of them is the doctors getting a way to get paid. So one of the things that we're going to talk about today is a strategic approach to get you in front of this market. How are we going to get you positioned in front of these doctors, and what's it going to take for you to get in front of these doctors? If we already kind of know going in that doctors are really, really, really busy, and we know that the approach that some of you may be thinking already, gosh, am I going to have to go knock on doctors' doors, kind of do this whole cold calling thing? And we know that that's not the approach. So we've got a very strategic approach to, again, get you to stand out in the market, but also to get you out there in front of those doctors. There's a couple of other little things I want to share with you about, and that's just the very basics on what we consider to be mastering medical marketing for medical billing. But then I want you to understand really about the entirety of the medical billing landscape. Well, first of all, folks, you're entering into an industry that has a steady growth. We're talking a $4.9 billion industry, and it is growing exponentially every single year. This is not an industry that's going to go away. We think of it as recession-proof, and as I did a couple of weeks ago, I think it's tariff proof as much as we can make things here. So there's not any indicators that are out there over the last 30 years that would ever make this a dip in the market to where people say, I'm not sure if I want to kind of get into that business. Well, and the other thing about the landscape is the rising administrative costs that are in healthcare creates its own demand. Again, kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, is the fact that doctors' offices are already so busy. And many times, if you've ever been to a doctor's office within a year's time, many times you go to that doctor's office, and a lot of those people that were once there are no longer there, which means that the doctor has a turnover. So when you've got that happening there, folks, on top of everything else, there's a lot of issues that I think you can bring help to. And then increasing complexity in insurance and compliance requirements. And we're going to deal with some of those. So to begin, let's kind of just step back and try to understand maybe some things that physicians want. So I've titled this next one, to begin, we must understand at least 5 things that physicians really want. Again, kind of driving back to what I was alluding to earlier and the hectic part of the office. What they want to is to reduce administrative burdens. If you think about it, the last thing the doctors are going to want to have to worry about is their window washing, or who's going to take out the trash, and who's going to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And if you've ever seen in a doctor's office, obviously when one patient leaves the examining room, that room's got to be prepped and cleaned and ready for the next patient that comes in. So there's a lot of things that are happening back behind the scenes that many times a lot of us just don't even recognize that's happening. But again, you got people that call in sick for themselves, the doctor gets behind. And one of these administrative burdens, obviously, is the whole revenue cycle management, which leads us to the second one. Doctors are wanting a better understanding and a better way to get their cash flow and revenue going. So this is a good point to talk about. What stops cash flow? Well, one of those areas that stops cash flow is when patients come in and they've got new insurance information, or it changes, or codes change, or something happens within that realm of revenue cycle management that blocks a claim from getting processed. So again, every patient that walks through the door, whether they're coming in with Medicare or Blue Cross Blue Shield or Aetna or Cigna or whatever insurance company that they have attached to them, whenever they come in, they know that patient's going to be charged to their insurance company some type of claim. Now, along that way, that claim could be rejected or denied. And a lot of those, as you would find out, going through an analysis of which we're going to show you how to do, sometimes you'll find out that those claims are even never, ever resubmitted for payment. So the doctors want to improve their cash flow. The third thing that can kind of keep a doctor up at night is risk management, or what we know as compliance assurance. This has to do with what we know as the patient's health records, okay, or the patient's health information. So whether we know it as HIPAA or we know it as whatever it might be, listen, having any of that exposed in a doctor's office could literally torpedo an entire healthcare system, especially for that. So these are some things that doctors want. So again, what do they want? They want to make sure that they don't have to worry about administrative burdens. They want to make sure that things that they want is a better cash flow. They want better compliance in their office. The other thing that they want is transparency reporting. They just don't want the fact for someone to tell them that everything's going smoothly. They actually want to see it. So reporting becomes a big necessity. And then obviously one of the last things that doctors want is to be focused on their patient care, not on paperwork. So these are 5 things right now that you should be able to walk away from and going, I wonder if this business is right for me. And is this something good for me to get involved with? And I'm going to tell you, because of the increase of what's happened in the industry, I think it's a perfect opportunity for anybody to get involved in. Healthcare in and of itself is what I would consider to be a very winning business proposition for anybody. But let's talk about doctor client acquisition. We're going to talk about 3 executive strategies for acquiring your first doctor client. Folks, we don't have all the time it's going to take today for me to teach you 100% of everything that we're going to teach you once you become an ABS business owner here. All I can do is kind of give you the highlights. So I'm going to give you 3 what I call executive strategies for acquiring your first doctor. So here we go. Again, if you want to, you can write these down, or again, you can certainly just ask for a copy of this and we will help you. Strategy number 1 is to help create you as a healthcare expert. A lot of you are not associated with healthcare. And that's what probably another part that kind of might even frighten you to a point, especially if you've talked to some of your friends and some of your families, and they're probably saying, okay, tell me, what do you know anything about medical billing? You're going to have to learn all of these codes. Don't you know that these doctors know so much more than you do whenever it comes to this? Folks, what you have to understand from this webinar and on is that, yes, you need that expertise, and yes, eventually over time, you're going to have that expertise. But what you're getting here with American Business Systems is 30 plus years of that experience already. So if you think about it, think of yourself as an executive of an owner of a company that just so happens to be in revenue cycle management. Okay, doesn't mean that you have to know all the ins and outs, but you got to make sure that you know where to go. And that's what ABS provides for you. So ABS business owners are empowered with in-depth engagement strategies that are going to help you get to that next level and show you to be that expert. One of those, again, is how we certify you. We certify you as a certified medical revenue manager from this organization called MIRMA. This is not actually coming from American Business Systems. It's coming from an organization that has been out there for a very long time. And so one of our strategic ways of helping you is to get you trained and get you creating you and your company to have this comprehensive healthcare ecosystem, so to say. So it's more than just dealing with processing claims. It's really trying to sit back and understand the entirety of revenue cycle management, from the time that that patient walks into the door to the time that that doctor gets that money or that check or whatever happens within that doctor's bank account, that they're getting paid. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Well, a few weeks ago on one of our webinars, I went into a pretty in-depth way of taking the entire group that was there live on an outline of what we teach. Now, there are 10 modules in our training course, with half of those alone being how to help you get your first client. Okay, so the first part of your training is all going to be all about what is medical billing and what are all the acronyms, what all of those things stand for. Then the second part is basically how you're going to help get you that first client, and some of that I'm going to share with you this afternoon. All right, so before I get any too much further down the road, again, if you got any specific questions along the way, feel free to ask me in the Q&A box. If it's appropriate for that particular section of the presentation, I'll certainly go over there and answer it. If it's something that I feel like it might help that we answer it a little bit later, I'll do that too. So we'll just kind of walk our way through it. But really what we want to do from the day that you join us here and you've invested in yourself here through American Business Systems, we want to make sure that we take you on a very in-depth way of training you and tutoring you and making sure that whenever you step away from that training, you know that you completed that certification of a medical revenue manager. And with that, again, you get to put that information on your business cards that you've completed a particular part of training. Now, let's say that along the way, as soon as you get out of training and something because your trainer is going to get you engaged along the way of starting to create some lists, some marketing list for you. And along the way that you're doing something, all of a sudden you've got a doctor that wants to engage you pretty early, even during the training. That's okay. We're going to help you and coach you right along the way through that whole process to make sure that you don't lose that potential doctor. Now, one of the things that we will talk to you about right now is that we would suggest that you don't get too far ahead of yourself. A lot of people would think about, gosh, what if I go pre-market myself out there, maybe try to see if I can gain a little interest from a few doctors before I invest the total amount over here at American Business Systems, and to see if I just might be able to get a couple of warm fish on the line. Well, the problem about that is usually whenever a doctor's looking, they really are looking. And so we wouldn't want you to stumble or fail, have any type of failure with your potential doctor there. We want to preserve you that whenever it is the right time, and it's the right time for you to go out there and start doing some marketing or some networking or whatever you intend to do, that we're going to make sure that those are protective and that, again, you don't stumble over anything. But again, if you'd like to, go check back out. I think it's probably 3 or 4 webinars ago that I went into a pretty in-depth about how successful you're going to be after this particular training. So you might want to go look that up in our YouTube channel, and I'll show you where to find that here in a little bit. So that's the first thing that we're going to do. We're going to have you again. We're going to get you as a healthcare expert. That's the first thing that we've got to do. We've got to create in you that knowledge base of what you're going to need to do. The second thing is to strategically have a strategic referral network building program. Okay. The first thing that I like to talk about is to cultivate your orbit of influence. It is important that you start to figure out your circle of influence as you kind of start to know who to reach out to first and where to go next. So we're going to kind of take you down a path of what that means to cultivate your orbit of influence. And then secondly, cultivate your relationships with others who have existing relationship with doctors. Okay. So let's say that you've got this group of people that you call that are within your orbit, or yours, the business name of it, that's your network. I like to kind of call it my orbit here. My orbit of influence. Who do I have in my world that I could touch base with and say, you know what? I'm thinking about starting this business. I've got a few folks that I can always call upon and say, hey, I'd like to talk with you and bounce my ideas off of you. That's your orbit of influence right there. You may find within that sphere of influence that you may have one of those two people and say, you know what, I actually know a doctor, or I know somebody who has a relationship with that doctor. And that's what you're trying to create. So again, instead of giving you this old and raw type of, and really kind of what I call it more of a decaying type of list list of doctors that you might get, we're creating a pool of really fresh information for you to go cultivate. Thirdly, cultivate business relationships with others within your community. Now, folks, this doesn't mean that you're going door knocking. It doesn't mean that you're going out there and cold calling people, but I will tell you this. What it does mean is that I want you to get out there and let people know that you're in business. Whenever I've talked to other people in the past, I kind of like to talk with it that I'm talking from one executive to another executive. Because that's what you're going to become. You're going to be the owner of your company. You're going to be the CEO of your company, the chief executive officer. You also might be the chief financial officer, and you may be the chief operations officer. And as they would say, you might be even the chief bottle washer at the end of the day, whenever it's all said and done. You may be the chief something, but you are the executive of your company. And I want you to have this executive type of mindset even now as you're trying to think this thing through. Because if you don't have that now, you're going to not produce yourself very well out there in the marketplace. Okay. And what I mean by that is if once you start to develop your orbit of influence, as I started there, and you got that close knit group of folks that you're already in network with, we're going to show you how to leverage that as you go forward. So in 2025, our new business owners can utilize the power of what we call ABS's network awareness strategies. Again, utilizing all spheres of what we have here, whether it's going to be with some of the training material that we have. We're going to show you how to build your kind of your 1 minute spiel, if you want to say that, to where you're going to have it down pretty quickly. That if you're in an elevator, as they would say, kind of the old elevator pitch, or you're just walking along the way with somebody, or you're sitting there having lunch with somebody, you're going to be able to talk about your business. Folks, if you're afraid to talk about your business, I'll have to say this may not be the right business for you. Okay. But it seems like the folks that I have on here, you're on here specifically because you kind of know you probably already have some type of an executive background, or you're wanting to. You know that you have it in you, and all you need is a vehicle for you to drive and make yourself successful with that. So this means moving beyond what we would consider to be just a general sales pitch. You will examine each practice's financial situations, including their billing performance, claim submission patterns, denial rates, collection efficiencies, and I'm going to show you how to do that on this next page. So I've got an example here of what's called a practice analysis questionnaire. And folks, you don't even have to memorize this information. Now, over a period of time, you're going to have a lot of these questions memorized already. And these are some of the questions that if you're out there doing some of the networking, you're talking with your orbit of influence, as I mentioned earlier, and you're already kind of just developing all of this. You've already got some of these questions down, and you're talking to them. This is what we do. We're going to go find out, as you'll see here in this next slide deck. You're going to be looking at asking the doctor, well, how many patients do you actually see a month? Out of those, what is your average charge for each of your visits? Some will be a little bit higher, some will be a little bit lower, but they all average anywhere from $100 to $150 per visit. And that's for a typical 15-minute visit there at the doctor's office. Then out of that, you're going to find out, does your office staff or your current billing person or company, do you, doctor, not do they know, but do you know what your denial rate is right now? Is it 2%? Is it 5%? Is it 15%? And if you ask the question and they come back with the I don't know answer, this is going to be a potentially great client for you to continue to keep networking to. Because as you can see here, as you're looking at here on the right-hand side of the paper, everything that was collected on the left-hand side was actually put into what's called a practice revenue report. And so once you've got their information and you plug it in, and we put in our known information, the projected what's going to happen if we do your billing, you can see the potential income amount that can be possibly an increase there. And in this particular situation, on a monthly basis, more than a 17% increase of revenue in a doctor's office. Now, let me ask you, if someone came along you and said, you know what, if you tweak a couple of different things in your home and in your budget or whatever, and it could bring you another 17% a month without really you doing much more than changing one or two things, would you consider doing that? Well, who wouldn't? Especially when you're dealing with the kind of money and the dollars that we're talking about here. We're talking about a plus $26,000 more a month for this particular doctor's office. And this was a real practice report that was done for a doctor. So without you having any knowledge, could any of the folks that are on here today, simply take this piece of paper and kind of start learning and start studying it enough to where you could start to talk about it, maybe during a luncheon or something else like that. Or if not, be able to sit with a doctor or their office manager and say, hey, let me take you through a free practice analysis just to kind of let you see, doctors, you want to get a pulse on us, you want to get our vitals, our baseline vitals. How about we do the same thing with you? And there's no charge for us to do this, but it will kind of show you maybe some gaps. Some doctors may say, well, thank you for showing that to me. I'm going to show this to my billing office. But then I promise you what'll happen is that billing office can't do anything differently than what they're already currently doing. And they'll get in contact with you. And the reason I know that is because several years back that I've done the same thing. One of my first clients, I told them, this is what we do. I showed them the practice analysis. I showed them how much money that they were losing. He decided to end up going with somebody that would charge a little bit less than I was going to charge. Well, that only took about 30 to 45 days. And then I got the call back and said, you know what? I may be paying you a little bit more, but I think I'd rather pay somebody to get the job done. If you're telling me what you can do, then I want you. So now, one of the other things that we're going to teach you how to do is really connect within the business world, within your orbit. Okay, don't forget that word. We're trying to put people that you already are in contact with, but then we're going to show you a little bit of different strategies of maybe reaching outside of that particular area, and we're going to suggest that you join up a couple of different organizations. One is a group that's called BNI, that's Business Networking International. Some of you on here may already know that I'm pretty familiar with that group. Listen, you can attend those meetings typically without even being charged with it for at least 2 or 3 times. Out of that, you're going to find out that they only accept within that particular networking division of that local group, they're only going to take one medical billing company. So if you come across a BNI group that's in your area and you call them up and say, hey, my name's Eric, or whatever your name is, Dominic or Juanita or Janice or whoever it might be, just saying, you know what, I am the owner of you can tell them already, I'm an owner of a medical billing company. Do you have any medical billing companies involved in your networking group? Probably more than likely, they're going to say, nope, we don't have anybody like that. Won't you come join us? Bingo, there you go. Probably more than 50 to 60% of the first time clients for our business owners come out of either a BNI group or a Chamber of Commerce group. And why is that? It's because there are other business people that are joining together, which are creating that centricity of that orbit. They're pulling new people within their orbit. Wouldn't you like to be kind of that gravity person that brings in all of these different people? Because what's going to happen? It's reciprocity starts to happen. If you're helping one, it's almost an obligation that they help you. So this is the synergy and this is how executives do their network marketing. Okay, this is how they go out there and build their business. They let people know that I'm a part of this group here of XYZ Medical Billing Company or Revenue Cycle Management Company, and this is what we do. We don't simply just do medical billing. We look, strategically and holistically every aspect of that doctor's revenue cycle management. When you start talking in terms like that, you're going to turn people's heads. You're not going to look like just the old mom and pop that does medical billing at home in the back of their house in an extra bedroom. Although that's maybe what you might be doing, but you're presenting yourself out there in the marketplace very strategically. Folks, probably one of the best things that we've gotten away out of COVID, and that is people being very innovative of how they're letting other people know that they're in business. And this is one of the best creative ways. So again, BNI, you can go check them out at any specific time and find out, oops, I hit the wrong one. You can go out there and they'll gladly welcome you in. into this. And then plus, you're going to go through this in your training. And if you, gosh, you got to go back and remember it. We have a separate website called ABS LSS, and that's your licensee support site. That's where everything's archived for you to go back and watch and rewatch again. Now, your training, now let me say this so that you don't get confused. Your training is as live as you and I doing the webinar right now. Although it's being recorded. So for those that were unable to make today's webinar, these webinars are put up on our YouTube channel. For those that can't always make the training, or they attend our live training, but they need to get back something remembered, we have that stored on a completely different site. It is a secured site for our business owners only. Okay. All right. So we're already at the we're already past the bottom of the hour. Let me go through this last strategy for you today, and that's presenting executive content. The last thing that you need to have is content that looks like you've created it out of your back bedroom. What we're going to have we're going to have a superior looking website that's going to highlight all of your services, all of your credentials, and all of your expertise. You don't have to sit around with analysis of paralysis, sitting around trying to figure out how I'm going to create my website. I'm going to show you an example of one or two of those right now. You want to develop a content addressing common billing challenges and solutions. Again, this is all part of your training. You're gonna learn all of this, and you're gonna develop all of this. And then finally, one of the things that you're gonna come away out of your training is really, really how to utilize all of the ABS provided material to reach the decision makers within your area. Because again, what good is it is if you go to one of these networking meetings and you have nothing to show how professional you are and how you become out there in the marketplace, for them to go, okay, I got their business card. What does everybody do? I'm going to go check them out. I'm going to go look at their website. Absolutely. So your website will be is professionally designed, and it has all the right material in it, all the right keywords, search words that need to go into it, so that whenever a doctor is potentially looking for a medical billing company, may be within your area, may be in your sphere of expertise, that these doctors are going to find you, okay, on the internet. But more importantly, whenever you're handing out your business card and on your business card shows a website, the last thing you want is to present a website that has broken links, or it's not there, it's not working properly, or it's poorly written, or whatever it is. We've got that taken care of for you. We have different templates for you to be able to move and create some of the things. Plus, you'll be able to put your own logo up there with your contact information up there. So all of that's going to be up there. So whenever you start, someone's wanting to see what you do with billing, that's going to be under iClaim. If they're going to want to check out about electronic medical records, that's under EMRX. If they want to learn a little bit about how they can get paid on some old accounts receivables, that's under Quick Collect. You can see that's all right there on that first part of that page there. But we demonstrated, you're going to learn how to take all the different services that we do have, and if there's a problem that you learn through that questionnaire that I showed you earlier, you will know how to come back and go, you know what? I'm not going to throw the doctor all of my services, but here are a couple of them. Well, iClaim is the billing one, so you're always know that you're going to pull that one out. But let's say that the doctors are needing some help with HIPAA compliancy issues. Well, that's where Compliancy Guard comes into play. What if a doctor is seeing a lot of elderly patients that can't get back to them too quickly? Well, we have a service called Virtual Care that the doctors can monitor the patient's vitals at home, and it's transmitted via a cellular connection, like through any of the Verizon or T-Mobile towers there, that if the patient's taking their blood pressure, or they're checking their blood sugar through a glucometer, that those readings go directly to the doctor. So, folks, whenever we say that we have problem-solving approach, that's in all spheres, including for some of you might be a little bit of afraid of coding. And that's what I'm going to highlight a couple of the services that we have with coding. So we have two services that demonstrate some problem-solving issues, and one is CodeWrite. CodeWrite can actually make sure that the doctors are coding properly. Now, if they need a certified professional coder, we actually have those through this service called CodeWrite. All the doctors would need to do, or that particular office would need to do, is simply scan the doctor's notes or their charts, and then it will be done and taken care of professionally by a certified professional coder. And then that information would then go to you to actually do the billing. Now, 9.59% of the time, or 99.9% of the time, the doctors are already doing all of their own coding. They know that by heart. If the doctor's been in practice for more than a year's time, that doctor knows exactly what diagnosis codes to use. That doctor knows what procedure codes to use. Sometimes they might need some help with some alternative codes that might need to come about. That's where CodeWrite might come in to play. So don't worry about you not knowing about codes. Remember, you're an executive of your company. All you need to know who's the go-to people that I need to get to for that. The other one is Audit Guard. Now, Audit Guard, I think, is a wonderful tool to actually end up getting a client. Because one of the things if I'm sitting there in front of that doctor and I'm doing that practice analysis questionnaire, one of the questions I would either ask the doctor, or if the doctor says, I need for you to sit down with my current biller, which is sometimes is their spouse, or I want you to sit down with my office manager. One of my questions that may or may not be in that questionnaire is, I'm always thinking ahead. I know what services I have, and I want to identify if any of the services that I have can actually help that doctor. So one of the questions that I would probably ask is, when was the last time you had all of a handful of your charts reviewed? Not by Medicare, because you've gone through an audit, or not because of Blue Cross Blue Shield, because they're taking you on an audit. But when's the last time you proactively had your charts reviewed? Now, again, you don't have to do the work. We have a service that does that, because Audit Guard will review the entire doctor's charts and identify if there's any potential or possible coding errors. The other thing that it'll do, it'll let us know whether the doctor's coding properly, especially on their procedure codes. The reason that's important is there's a lot of times they leave money on the table because they do what's called, in our world, called undercoding, which means that they're not coding to their full potential, which means that they're not getting reimbursed enough. Imagine that the doctor's doing $150 worth of work, but is only billing for $95. Well, do that math there. That's probably about a 20 to 25% loss every time that they're billing. So the doctors don't recognize that. Folks, they didn't go to school for this. You will have gone to school of learning how to do that. I've already mentioned Compliancy Guard. This has to do with HIPAA compliancy. Listen, more times than not, something happens in a doctor's office where they need retraining or recertification, or they got new people that are joining in. But I know at least once a year, everybody has to go through a HIPAA compliancy training, because the rules change and new things are added. That's a service that can certainly be associated with them. I'll tell you, one of the fun ways that I ended up getting a handful of potential doctors on my list of people that I would be marketing to was simply, but just going to the doctor's offices. I got to the point where I wasn't too scared to walk into a doctor's office, but I would walk in and said, you know what, my name's Eric. I'm with so-and-so company. I'd like to find out, is your compliancy officer available? Well, folks, you should have seen the looks that I would get. You would have thought I was the FBI or the IRS showing up there at that doctor's office. Everybody's eyes got big. Everybody heard HIPAA compliancy officer or compliancy officer. Everybody immediately thought that there was some type of violation. Oh my goodness, what is this guy doing here? Why do they want to talk to my compliancy officer? Well, because we want to talk to them. Many times, guess who it is? It's either going to be the office manager and or the doctor. Guess who I got an audience with? I got to talk with them, share with some of the new things that are coming up with compliancy that they may not know. I'd be happy to kind of share that in a free format with them. Maybe bring lunch, and I'll obviously give a free small little class on those. And folks, we have all the content with that. That's part of what your support team is doing behind the scenes. They're collecting information and building new charts and some things like that to show you and help you with that. Quick Collect is, again, a way to collect older money. These are the things that, gosh, sometimes it's the last thing to do. And so that's one of the great things about Quick Collect, that we can help doctors collect what's already owed to them by their patients. We can help set those patients on kind of like a patient payment plan. And get that done automatically so that those doctors. And this is a way in which they don't have to send their clients to a collection agency. That's the last thing a doctor wants to do, is say, "Hey, Mrs. Smith, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to turn you over to collections because you owe me $150." That's not a way to do business, folks. That's the last way doctors need to do business. All right, switching gears here a little bit on this problem-solving approach. And because of my generosity today, I want you to ask your sales rep for an electronic copy of what I'm about to share with you. I want you to get the new Thriving Medical Practice. So for those that stayed on, you get an opportunity to get an electronic version of the new Thriving Medical Practice book. Get back with your sales rep. Ask them or tell them that Eric gave me the option to get this. Would you please send this to me? Now, this is the electronic copy, and I want to share it with you because I want you to make sure you know what you're getting into, because all the problems that a doctor's office goes through is in this book. Why do I know that it is? Because it was written by Patrick Phillips and Dr. Vicki Rackner, whom I'm going to be able to have on the webinar here next month. You're not going to want to miss that if you haven't already joined forces with us. But the new Thriving Medical Practice talks about all the problem-solving issues that need to happen within a doctor's office. But when you become part of American Business Systems, outside of all of those marketing pieces that I shared with you earlier, you're actually going to get physical copies of this book that you'll be able to give out to doctors when you're doing your marketing. So let's say that you attended a BNI meeting. Someone there in your networking orbit says, "You know what, Matthew, I ran across somebody that I think I need to plug you into. It's Dr. Brown." They make a connection with you. You get to Dr. Brown's office, they're expecting you. You go through the questionnaire with them. That triggers them to go, "You know what, we do see some gaps." And while you're there, tell the doctor that I'd like to get them a personal copy of this book, The New Thriving Medical Practice. And what are you going to do? You see these little yellow tabs? Through the training, we're going to strategically show where you can place all of those tabs so that when the doctor starts flipping through it, there's even going to be places there where you'll highlight areas to help the doctor expedite their reading. So folks, there is no other business opportunity out there that's going through the links for us to help you get your first doctor. All right. If you got any questions here, we're about getting ready to wrap up. We've got about 12 minutes or less here to the top of the hour. But one of the things I want to kind of help also with, I want to kind of close out with this afternoon is, first of all, why would a doctor need an outside biller? Don't they already have somebody in their office? Aren't they already paying somebody to do this? Yes. But I want you to see the cost of what it takes for them to do that. Now, if it's the typical doctor's office that's seeing more than, gosh, you can see that this is 20 patients a day. If they're open 5 days a week and they're producing 100 claims a week, that's a small little office, and that can be still pretty busy in and of itself. But let's say it takes a person and a half to do that, even at a minimum of $22 an hour. So you kind of split that between 1.5 people. that's still less than $20 an hour per person as you kind of work it all out, whenever it comes down to a full-time employee. And let's say that that total cost between that 1.5 people come out to be about $68,000. Now, if you'll go back and watch one of the webinars that I've done recently, I actually showed what the typical medical biller who has some certifications, what they're generally starting off at. And they're starting anywhere from the mid 50s to the upper 60s, as you can see there. So we're not too far off about what it's going to cost a doctor to have an in-house biller, okay? Then you got payroll taxes, you got workers' comp, you have errors and omission insurance, you've got training costs, you have all these other costs that kind of go along with that. You add all of those up, it could approximately total up to be $95,000. And that's without getting one claim out the door. That is just saying that someone's going to do the billing. It doesn't mean that they're going to go resubmit claims or do denial management or do anything else, because they're going to get paid whether or not the doctor gets paid. Now, they may not stay there very long because the doctor's going, you know what? I'm paying you the full package, anywhere from, let's call it $70,000. And by the time I pay taxes and pay your vacations and your insurance, your health insurance, by the time I get through with this, you're costing me $85,000, $95,000 a year, and I'm not getting a good return on my investment. You see this. This is why we do that questionnaire where we kind of do this, doctors, this is what you're currently doing versus if you were to have your billing outsourced to somebody like us. So let's say that you took those same amount of claims. Well, what is that going to cost the doctor? Well, a total of $54,600. Now, when we looked at this over here, I'm gonna flip between these two screens. When we look at over here on this practice revenue report, you see down here where it says halfway through the bottom, it says projected. It says rejection rate 2%, monthly revenue increase 31,000, total monthly cost of outsourcing $12,945 a month. You see that? So this is, we've already built the cost in of what, and it's still showing an increase of $26,000 a year, or $26,000 more a month. So we're already adding into all of that and understanding that all of that is accounted for. So even with our cost involved, that's less than what it costs them to have someone that's a full-time employee. Listen, outsourcing, bottom line, is the best way to go for any doctor out there. Okay. All righty. So as we kind of get to a wrap up here, this is a great time for a little bit of question and answer time. So I'm going to put this slide up here. So if anybody has any questions, this is a great time for me to help answer any of those questions right now. If there's no questions that pop up here, let me kind of share this just as a general question that sometimes people might ask. You know, what's the initial investment here? There's a one-time initial investment of $30,000. That's all inclusive. That includes all of your training. It includes your lifetime of support. It includes all the services that I've got up here on this particular slide. Let me see if I can find that. Nothing's left out up here. I think I've already passed it up here. So let me get that back up here for you. There we go. So all these different services are all included in that $30,000. You're going to get a personal one-on-one trainer that's going to help you, get you through all of the live training and everything else.